Hello all, welcome to Clear Technologies and welcome to AWS and MuleSoft course. So far we have seen AWS services overview. We have discussed almost nearby 50 services and important services of different categories, and we have created our free tier account as well. And we have discussed all the basics and different terminology in AWS and different basic concepts so far. So to start with actual AWS course, actually we will go all the services one by one, all the free services. Most of the services I will cover in this course. I will maybe list out what are the services we will cover in this entire course, and I'll give it to you very soon. So we will be discussing all the services one by one, whichever are free, so that everyone can practice with this free account. If few services which are required to get the knowledge as part of interview point of view, I will explain them with a real-time example theoretically. If it is free, we will practice that. Otherwise, we can discuss at least theoretical part, so that at least for interview point of view, you can able to answer questions related to those services, right? So to start with our practical courses, sorry, practical videos, we will start with IAM service. So IAM is the very first service we will be discussing actually in general also. If you start with any other AWS course also, we will start with IAM service only at the first level. Why? Because IAM service is one of the security service that we have already discussed. So why we will start with this service as a first tutorial is like, let me just navigate you through the Amazon console. I hope you have already created a free account by this time by watching our previous video. So I'll just click on the sign in console. So while logging into this console, you can see two different options. One is root user, another one is IAM user. So while creating this AWS account, we have used our email ID, our new email ID, and we have done all the steps. So that user is called root user, who is the super user, or you can understand in another way like who is the admin, who is the main user for this complete AWS account. So with this root user, you can do anything. I mean, with root user credentials, you can play around with all the AWS services. Like you can create a service, you can delete a service, you can create multiple instances. Even for the paid services, also you can use it for use. If you create lot more services, it will be chargeable also. So all the billing and all the stuff will come to this root user only. So root user have all the accesses, entire accesses, and root user even can delete the complete AWS account itself. So that is why as per the AWS suggestion or as per the best practices, we will never use root user to practice any service in AWS. We will just create an account, create a free tier account in AWS with the root user, with an email ID who is called root user in AWS. Later on, we will be creating some different users, IAM users. But by logging in with that IAM user only, we are going to practice all the services. Why we need to do all these things, we will discuss little bit, so that you will get some better understanding. We'll discuss with some real-time scenario. Okay, so let's say, for example, this is an organization. I'm going to build an organization. Like for example, our Clark Technologies. So this is an organization. As of now, we have only 2 to 3 trainers for now. Let's assume that I want to build this as an organization, and I need lot many developers. Normal code developers, QA testers, DevOps team. So I have lot of employees in my organization right now. For example, this is the root user. I'll just tell you. So each and every organizations will have only one root account, one root user. Every organizations will have only one root account, one root user. Why? Because he is the admin. He is responsible for everything which is happening in this AWS account, and one billing is generated for all the regions and all the services, all the users, whoever created the services, whoever used the different services. So let's say in our organization, for example, we have 500 employees right now. Okay, 500 employees. So if I can give this root user admin username and password for all the 500 employees, is it really safe? No, right? So if I can give this root user username and credential for all these 500 employees, anyone can do anything. As I said, root user is a super user, so anyone can accidentally or knowingly or unknowingly, they can even delete the account itself, and they can utilize all the services, more services for their practice purpose, or they can misuse everything. Right? If I can share this root account username and password to everyone, any of the 500, any of these 500 employees can misuse this privilege. Right? So obviously it will affect my organization in the point of building, in the point of security, and whatever the scenario it will be, the effect will be on the organization. Right? We will get the effect. We need to pay more bills, and we will be responsible for all the services who the customers are going to use it in our account. Right? So to avoid that, or in general, even this is the best practice to create a IAM users for everyone. So let's say, for example, I have 500 employees in my organization. I have to create 500 IAM users. For each and every employee, there should be a their own username and password. They should not share their username and passwords, and even root user password or username password also we will not share with employees. Right? In this 500 employees, we may have different categories like 100 members are developers, 100 members, 100 employees are from QA team, 100 employees are from testing team, 100 employees are for admin team, and 100 employees for DevOps team, UI team, like that. We may have different teams, different categories of these employees, but each and every employee should have their own username and password to log in into our AWS account to do their work, or to do their practices and everything. So we have to create an IAM user for each and every employee in order to provide the security. Right? So as part of this IAM service, we will be discussing about 4 different components. What are they? Means we have IAM user, we have IAM policy, we have IAM groups, and we have IAM role. You may have already heard about these 4 components. We will be going to discuss these 4 components, each and everything in detail, and we are going to cover furthermore concepts of IAM. How we can provide more security by using this IAM service to our cloud infrastructure. Right? So let's go one by one. So why we need a security? First thing, why we need to provide security? Because we are taking this IAM user from AWS cloud service provider, right? Cloud service provider will provide by default security. AWS is more secured. They will provide more security, right? So why we need to again, why we need to bother about security from our end? So the reason is, this is a shared responsibility model. So let's assume that we have a AWS service here. Sorry, we have a AWS account, or in this AWS account we have a server. We already hear about. We already discussed about these things like right, virtual machines. In the physical server, we will be having multiple virtual machines like that. Let's say this is the data center, and this is the VM. So we have taken this service from AWS, and we are going to deploy our application into this EC2 instance or into this virtual machine. We are going to utilize our application. Let's assume we are doing this. So to secure this data center and to secure this EC2 instance, to secure this availability zone, that actually AWS will take care of it. As a service provider, it will be more secure, like it will provide more security at this at a data center level, and at maybe for example for some instances EC2 level. Okay, but as a customer, we have to make sure our EC2 instance is more secure, like our virtual machine is secured, and inside that virtual machine our application is secured, and inside that application our data is secured. And we are all the like whitelisted IP addresses only we will get requests from trusted users only. Like that, some security decisions we have to take care, and we need to apply some security processes from our end as a customer. AWS always provide security to outside. Okay, inside we need to take care of the security, right? So can I can give you some another real time example. Like for example, in your house, in your bedroom, like in your house, maybe it is a 3 bhk or 2 bhk. In one bedroom it is a master bedroom. In that master bedroom you have some rack or some birva. Inside that you have all the confidential information like your certificates, your gold or your money or your any valuable any other valuable things. You have it in your birva, right? Let's say for example, if someone from outside, like not visible, just give me 1 minute. Let's assume that this is your outside wall, like maybe your compound wall. This is your home. Inside that you have this is your bedroom. Inside that you have kept some valuable things in the some rack or some birva, um, like gold, money, certificates, or any property documents or anything. If someone from outside, let's say some thief, okay, so someone want to attack your house and they want to rob your data or rob your your valuable things. So how many levels, at what how many levels you will provide security if you are not at home? Okay, we will be having a main lock here in the compound wall, or maybe we can have some grills, or we can have some other security measures we will take care at compound wall level, right? So let's say if he crashed it successfully and he entered into the, let's say he crashed this security levels successfully, maybe he hacked it or something, he by any chance, like by any reason he just cracked it, then he will enter into the house, right? So for your house or your main door itself you should provide some more security. You have double locks, or you have some grills, you have some other locks, right? In order to avoid this person enter into your bedroom. Let's say he successfully break that locks and whatever things he done, he will enter into your room, like into your hall. Then he have to go to your bedroom, and then he need to access this bureau, and then he need to rob those things, the valuable things, right? So just assume this is a simple scenario. So you have provided security at compound wall level, and you have provided some other security, you have taken some other security measures here. By mistake if he entered into the house also, he cannot able to access this, because in the bedroom itself you have another lock. Maybe if he entered into the bedroom also, the actual valuable things which you have in your birba, it has multiple locks, it will have some number lock, because this locks he can break. But for the birba or for the locker, if you have provided some number locks, or if you have provided some fingerprints or some hand thumb impressions like that, so, another more advanced security measures, he cannot access that. Right, numbers maybe he can guess, he can do some random numbers and he can open that number lock. But for the fingerprints or maybe handprints, those are more secured, and no one can I mean clone it, right? No one can misuse that, as the fingerprints everything is unique. So like that you have to think in multiple ways to protect your valuable things in general. So we will be thinking all the possible ways wherever we can apply any security measures, we can take care of it to I mean to save our valuable things, right? So just like that you have to save your data. in our projects or in our real-time cloud infrastructure, or maybe in on-premise also. But on-premise, which will be completely on your control, so there are very less chances of the data is misused and all. But as this is a cloud service provider, as this is on cloud, everyone can attack, anyone can attack at any point of time. So you have to make sure multiple levels, at application level, at network level, at data level, or at service server level, you have to apply lot many security measures in order to protect your data. So here the valuable thing is data, right? Because everyone, I mean, because we have some sensitive data, some important data, everything, right? So I think you got the point. So we have to save our data. You have to protect our data in our in integration scenario, or maybe in our any application. If you can take, main thing is to protect the data. So to protect our data, we have to apply lot of security measures in different levels, like the compound wall, like the main door, like the door, main bedroom door, like the locker, like that. So for different levels, you have different levels of security. So to protect your account, or to protect your AWS stuff, our first security thing which we are going to discuss, our first security service is IAM service. Okay, we have lot of security services available in AWS. We will discuss that when we discussed about that security module. We have a separate module for that. So in that module, we will discuss other security services and other components. So as of now, let's discuss about this IAM service. So we have IAM user, policy, groups, and role. So as we have seen, what is root user, what is IAM user. So IAM user is a user specific, apart from this root user. So IAM user does not have any admin access. So he don't have any other access until unless root user provide any access to this IAM user. Okay, so what is IAM first? IAM means Identity and Access Management Service. I means identity, EAM means access management. So this service will take care of identification of the users and access. It will provide access to the users, like authentication and authorization. So you have to understand authentication and authorization. You have to keep this in mind. IAM service will make sure right user will have right access at right point of time for the right service. Okay, so for example, as I said, 500 employees are there now. So 100 employees are developers, 100 employees are DevOps team, for example. Maybe 100 employees are from infrastructure team. So developers should have access to development related services of AWS. As we have seen in our previous video, code commit, code deploy, code pipeline. Those are DevOps services and development tools, right? So all the developers should have access to those services only. They should not use other storage services, other database services like S3 or DS. So they should not use that. So like that, it will control the access. IAM service will control the access, and it will make sure only authorized persons enter into the service and they can use the service. Even in our organization also, okay, you will get an identity card. Once you join in any organization, you will get an identity card for the first time. So with that identity card, if you want to enter into that office, your security, main gate security will ask for the identity card. He can say, okay, you are authenticated to enter into the office. So because ID card is on company name, your photo will be there, your employee ID will be there. He can cross check, or maybe he can have some ID. Your company logo is also there. Everything is. So by seeing that ID card, he can make sure that you are employee of that particular organization. So if you are employee of this ABC organization, for example, you cannot enter with that ABC ID card to some say, for example, I have Clark Technologies as organization, and I have another one is like some other art technologies. So with this Clark Technologies ID card, you cannot enter into any other office, any other organization. This ID card is specific to my organization. So your your identity card is your authentication. Okay, so like that, username, password, it will provide credentials to authenticate the user. So you, to log in into this account, you need user ID and password, that is authentication. So you can able to log in only, that's it. You can able to enter into the office only with your ID card. But in order to access your ODC, in office point of view, like to access the work area, we have different ODCs are there. We have different offshore development center ODC means. So we have different ODCs are there, and we have some server rooms also there. We have some manager cabins also there. So with your ID, as you have ID card, company ID card, you are not supposed to enter into any server room or any high secured room. You are not authorized. That is called authorization. You don't have access. Got you? I mean, got this point, right? So you have this ID card, but you need to have access to that area to enter into that particular area. For example, in our organization, we have multiple ODCs, like this is development center, this is server room, this is another important other uh, high authorities room, maybe client room, something, for example. So as you are an employee of this organization, that doesn't mean that you can enter into any room and you can do anything you want. If you are this is the development team ODC, you will be enter into only this team, only this ODC, this room. If this is the client room or maybe some server room, you are not authorized to enter into this server room, because you are just a developer. You are just even though you are an employee of that organization, you cannot enter into client room, do something. You cannot enter into the server room to do some configurations to destroy the servers and all. So everyone have their own access. So that all these things IAM service will take care of it. So identification, um, access management, identity and access management, IAM means it means like authentication and authorization. So with this IAM user credentials, you can log in into the IAM account, but you cannot access any service. To you access any service like S3 service, EC2 service, anything, your root user should provide access to your IAM user. We will see that practically. So I hope you got the difference between the authentication and authorization. Okay. If your access card is enabled for this server room, then you can enter into this room, because you will have all the swipes, right? While entering into the room, you will have some swipe mission. You need to swipe your ID card over there. If it is access is successful, then only that you can open the door and you can enter into the room. Otherwise, it will show error. It will give you red symbol, something like that. You can just remember in that way, right? So, so let's see the difference between user, policy, groups, and role. We will discuss at the end. Okay. So user is the person, a single person. If any 500 employees are there, na, so for each and every employee we will have a user. So user, it is simple to understand. If you want to access any AWS services, if you need to work on any AWS service, you have to create a user. Okay. So what is policy? Policy is nothing but the permission which we are going to give to the user. Authorization. Okay. You can have set of permissions to a single policy. We will see there is a slight difference between the policy and permission as well. We will discuss that in detail once we are creating a policy practically. But as of now, remember that the policy is the one which you are going to give the authorization to the user. See, let's say if we have dev team here, I will have a dev policy. So I will add this dev policy to this user, to this employee. This dev team, here some swiping mission is there. Na, I will give access. I will enable this access to this particular employee access card, so that they can swipe their access card, enter into the dev room. That is a one kind of policy you can remember in some simple way. So like that, user is the single person, single employee. We can create as many as users with the root account. And IAM account also we can create, that we will see later. So policy is the set of permissions which we can provide to a user. So group means number of employees, group of users. See, if we have 500 employees and 100 developers are there. Okay. These developers need to have access to all the development related services. So if we create all the 100 employees one by one, if we want to provide permission to all the employees one by one, it is little tough. It will take much time. Instead of that, we can create a group. and we can add all the 100 developers to this group. We can add policy to the group itself. So the policy will be applicable to the all members of the group, just like our WhatsApp groups. Okay, so if you want to send any photo or anything to your family, maybe for example, instead of sending each and every family member individually, you can create a group, family group. You can share your function photos, you can share your celebrations pics or anything in the same group only once, so that that photo is visible to everyone. Maybe WhatsApp broadcast, you can think in that way. Okay, but you from your end you are doing only one time activity, that photos or that videos are visible to everyone. Just like that, we will be creating a group of users, we will be creating a group, and in that group we will be adding all the users. Just like our WhatsApp group, we will create one group today, maybe we can add more members in the group, right? So that is easy to share any information to with the multiple users. It's very easy, and it's time and we can save the time also, right? So we can create a group, and we can add users to that group, we can add that policy to the group. Let's say for example, in this organization today 100 developers are there, in future maybe 50 more employees are increased. So again I need to create 50 user accounts you need to create manually, that is for sure. And we have a CLI also to create bulk users, that we can see later. But to apply any policy, another 50 developers also need access to all the services. So if you want to provide the policies or permission to each and every user one by one, it will be taking 2 to 3 days for you. Instead of that, we can add 50 members. We can create 50 IAM users, we can add those to a group, that this group already have the policy, like what are the services this developer can access. And then in later point, maybe 50 developers are left the organization, 50 developers resigned from the organization, they left. Instead of deleting every user, instead of deleting permission to every user, even in our WhatsApp group also, if you want to remove any photo or anything, if you have shared by mistake, you can just right click on that photo and click on delete for everyone. So once you click on that, from everyone WhatsApp window, that picture is deleted, right? It's a single step. Other than if you instead of that, if you want to delete this from 100 different WhatsApp charts, it will be taking 1 hour for you at least. So that is just a simple logic. So user policy groups you can understand little more better once we do the practice session. And role, it is a different meaning in AWS. Role means you don't assume that this role is like a normal role. In our mind, if we thought role, we will be thinking like it is a developer role, it will be testing role, it will be some other role. No, in AWS role is different. Okay, in AWS role means it will establish communication between two different services. For example, in our previous like AWS services video, we have seen that a lot of services are communicating with one another. So we have EC2 virtual machines we have seen. Maybe let me just open that PPT quickly. Basically, IAM role is it will establish a communication between two services. You no need to create a user. Okay, we can just create a role, and we can make sure those two services are communicate to each other. Yeah, let's say for example, see this virtual machine, EC2 is a virtual machine or VM, right? This virtual machine want to update some data into the database. So database is in one service, EC2 is another service. So if EC2 service want to update data into the database will have its own username and credentials. And if someone want to update here, you cannot update the data directly. You need to authenticate your credentials. You need to authenticate your access or credentials. See, if you want to update some data into the RDS or database, it will ask you like, boss, who are you? Who are you? Why you are updating data into this database? Like that, you will get some errors. We are unable to locate your username or password. We are unable to authorize you. Something like that, errors you will get back. So in order to avoid that, we will create a role, IAM role. In that role, we have the secret key and access key. So we can configure that secret key and access key here in this service. So once you trying to access this database, now it will allow access. Now VM will update the data, whatever it want to update the data into the database, just like for this external storage also. So if see if someone if this easy to photos and videos are there na data are there na in this VM vision which we have discussed. So it need to upload the data into the S3 bucket. S3 bucket will not allow by default, because which virtual machine want to update here in this S3, any random data also get updated, right? Any misused data also update into the S3 bucket, right? So there should be a mutual authentication between these two services. If this EC2 service you want to update data into the S3 service need to make sure if this is the authorized virtual machine, or if this is the authorized service to access this S3 to update the data. So in order to do that, if two machines want to talk to each other, we no need to create a user. User is specific to human. User is specific to employee. So if some employee want to do some changes into this S3 bucket, if employee want to work on this S3 bucket, create a bucket, delete bucket, upload the files and all, if they want to do it manually as an employee, we need to create a IAM user. If two machines want to talk to each other, if you want to consume any service from the AWS, even in MuleSoft also, we will be having some integration scenarios like we can consume this S3 bucket and download the files from this S3 bucket and upload it somewhere in the some other tool. So in that case, we don't need to create a user, because MuleSoft is not an user. In that MuleSoft integration flow, our MuleSoft HTTP service, or maybe our scheduler want to talk to this S3 bucket to download the files. Two machines want to or two services want to talk to each other, two services want to communicate to each other. In that scenario, in AWS, we will be creating a IAM role. If any human or any developer or any employee want to use this AWS services, if they want to log in and they want to do some work, they want to do some create some services somewhere, I mean they want to work on different services, we will create a IAM user. This is related to human. If IAM role, if you want to consume any services from the AWS, you can just create IAM role and you can establish the secret key and access key. With that authentication, you can able to, I mean your service able to communicate to the AWS service. Just remember all these things in a simple words as of now. So once we are doing it in practical way in couple of minutes, then it will be easy for you to get more details. So I hope you got some basic idea about IAM user policy group and all, and the difference between the root user and IAM user as well. So let's try to create an IAM user, and then we will see how it works. Okay. So in order to do that, you need to just log in into your console. As we have already created this AWS account, you have to log in with the root user account. So in my case, I have created root user with this email ID, right? So I'm just clicking next and sign in. So now I am in this AWS management console with the root user. How you can see, how you can make sure if it is the root user is here, you will see your username here and your account ID here. Okay, if you can click here, it will show you the username Clark AWS. That is the username I have given while creating this account. Okay, so once we create the IAM user, we can see the difference how we can I mean how we can make sure which user we logged in and all. Okay, so once you create any AWS account, it will give you a unique account ID, and this is my unique account ID. For you it will be different, so we will be having a different unique account ID once you create an AWS account. If we are creating multiple IAM users, every user this account ID will be mapped to that particular user, so that by end of the month or by end of the year, by end of every month, if it would like to generate some billing information, it will create billing at level of account ID with for this account ID. So whatever how many IAM users are there in this root account, so all the services they are using will be billed at once, charged at once. It will give you a summary of billing here, so that root user should pay that amount. That is why we should not give root user credentials to anyone. Right. So as I have already visited these services, it is showing here. Otherwise, in your case, maybe you can search for IAM. Okay, just click on it. See here, it is showing the full name, Identity and Access Management. So, and we will discuss this MFA and all later. First, let's create an IAM user and see how it works. Then we will discuss about this MFA stuff and all. So by default, see IAM resources. How many IAM resources are there? User groups, users, roles, policies, and identity providers. Like this. In here in this navigation also you can see the same. And this is for reports, access analyzer. These are all the reports, and these are all not for free. So with our free account, we cannot check all these things because few will be chargeable. Okay, and here also identity providers are little bit chargeable. Maybe we'll see it later. If it is not chargeable, I can try to provide some practical example for that as well. So for now, let's discuss about users, roles, and policies, and user groups. Okay, so to create an IAM user, you have to go to this users. Okay, for now there is no users in my root account. I'll try to create a user. So to create a user, you can just click on this create user. You can give the username. You can give any username you want, or if you want to, if you as you are an organization, you have 500 employees, so you can give the employee name also in the username. Okay. So for example, in my case, I can give my name as a user here. So Lakshmi M I can give. So later on I'll try to create another user and I'll show you the difference. Okay, so for now I'm giving my own name. Lakshmi M is my username. So here you can check this, provide user access to the AWS management console. This is optional. As we are creating this user, you want to create access to the management console also, right? So that is why you need to check this box. Why this is a separate option here is few cases are there. As we already discussed, we can communicate to this AWS services in three different ways. One is by using this AWS console, another one is by using CLI, command line interface, another method is through the programming languages. So if this user is want to communicate through CLI, if you have a requirement like this user, particular Lakshmi, this is a user and she want to communicate to this AWS services through command line interface, you no need to provide this access here. So you should not check this checkbox. You can just simply click on next and all. So once she cannot able to log in into the console, she cannot able to see this management console. She cannot use this AWS services through this console. She can use this all the services by using command line interface, like by using different commands. But as of now, we have to provide this management console for this user. In my case, I want my employee or my user to use this management console to create different services. So I can provide this access. Sometimes if you are already worked on any real-time organization, you will observe these differences. You will get the username and password or secret key or access key, but you are unable to log in into this console and you can see any you cannot see anything here. So why? Because they are not providing you this console access in the background, your infrastructure team. So that is the reason. Okay, so I want to make this Lakshmi to access this AWS management console, so I have given this access. Are you providing console access to a person? Yes, because this is a user. Okay, I want to specify a user in identity center because we don't have any user in this identity center as of now, because this is my pretty new account. In your real-time scenario, maybe they can your employee ID, your email ID is already added to their identity center, so they can select this option. But for now, in my case, as this is a trial account, I will select this. I want to create a new IAM user. Now, next step, you want once you create the user, you need to get user ID and password, right? So the password you can select in two different ways. You can select auto generated password or you can select custom password. This is actually your infrastructure team will create this user for you. Once you join in a project, you are not going to create this IAM user. As a solution architect, you have to understand how to create this user and all. But as a normal developer, you don't have this access to create IAM user and all, right? So I am just explaining everything, how to create this IAM user. Um, So this will be useful for you. Okay, sometimes you will not get this privilege to do this. Okay, so to create a user, I want to create a IAM user. You can select anything, auto generated password or custom password. For now I will just leave it auto generated password, or else you can select the custom password. You can give some like uh, clarity test 01 at the rate 01. Maybe this is my custom password. Show password, it will show you. Okay, so once I create this user, I will provide this username and password to my user, so that they can log in into the console. They can see if this is working or not. Okay, so I have given custom password. You can select auto generated password also. It will give some random password. It will generate randomly. If you want, you can create in this way. Anything is fine. Okay, so next, this checkbox, user must create a new password at next sign in. So once you give this custom password, as I am showing this password to you, even you can also log in with this IAM user. You can use anything. You can do anything with my account, right? So instead of that, we can check this checkbox. User must create a new password at next sign in. So at the first time when user logged in with this password, okay, the very first time when you click on login, it will show you one screen like to change the password. Even for our net banking or even for any other accounts also, we will see this, like once you log in, it will not show you the console immediately. It will show you the password change screen. It will ask you to enter this old password, and it will ask you to change the password and all. So for that, this option will be useful. Right, so as I have already shown you this password, I'll just select this auto generated password. For now I'll just change it. Okay, right. So now I will get auto generated password, and every when the first time user logged in, the user need to change the password. Okay, now, yeah, click on next. And here you will see multiple options here. Add user to group, copy permissions, attach policies directly. To give the permissions, so as we have already seen, what is the permission one. So for a like for now, maybe we can leave this section as it is. Okay, let's see the difference. Let's see the difference practically. Okay, so add user to group means if you already created a group, you can add this user to that particular group. So if we have applied any policy to that group, that policy will be applied to this user as well. But as of now, in our case, we have not created any group yet. This is the first user we have created in our account, so you should not use this option as of now. Copy permissions means, if one user is already created and they have some access. So if you want to create a new user, instead of adding all the access one by one, you can just select this copy permissions. You can give that, select that user who is having the correct permission. You can just select, and that same copy of set of permissions will be applied to this new user as well. This option also we will see later. So now attach policies directly means, whatever the policies you want to attach to this user, you can attach those policies here. Like if you want this Lakshmi user want to access to S3 bucket storage services, or if she is a developer, she want to access code commit and other services, you can select those policies here. Actually, we have two different policies. One is AWS defined policies, another one is custom defined policies. So we can create our own policies also, or you can use the existing policies. See, permissions policies, we have 1195 policies are there, or permissions are there by default. AWS itself is created these policies. You can see here, this policy is type is AWS managed. If you create any new policy, it will show you customer managed. Because it is showing AWS managed, it means these are all the default policies created by AWS. So we will see what are the policies and how we can add this to user. Okay, for now, let's leave it as it is. Let's click on next. So we are creating a plain user without any permissions. Just remember that. Require password set. Okay. So yeah, let me change password permissions. We can just leave it to them. We don't need to change anything here. It is just a review screen. Okay, just click on create user. Yeah. Now it will create the user and it will show you three important things in this screen. One is the console URL, another one is username, another one is password. As we have selected auto generated password now, I have changed it now. I have changed the option from custom to auto generated. It will give you three important information here. You can copy this somewhere because if you want to log in as an IAM user, you have to use this specific URL which is generated for you specifically. So in your organization also, if you join in any project, if you have this AWS in your project, they will create a user for you and they will give these three details for you: URL, username and password. By using this information only, you can able to access the AWS console. So I'm just copying these things one by one manually. I will show you how you can download this as well. So my username, you can just click this button, it will copy. I'm just saving it in some notepad. This is my username and you can click on show password. So this is the random password generated by AWS because we have selected auto generated password. Okay, click on copy and save it here. This is the password you need to use while logging into as an IAM account, IAM user. Instead of that, you can select download CSV file. I mean, your infrastructure team may download this file and send it to you to access your URL credentials, URL and username and password. Okay, they can download this file or they can email these instructions to you. Okay, if you click on this, it will ask you for email. You can just select their email, developer email. Once you click on it, these instructions will be sent to the user as an email. So we have downloaded this CSV file, right? Let's see how this file will looks. This is a kind of comma separated Excel file, CSV file. See here, you can see console sign in URL, okay, password and username. So now please make sure and please pay attention that we have created a plain user without any permission. How the IAM user console will looks like, we will see that now. So to do that, I'm just returning to this users list. So in our root account, we have only one user. I will try to log in with my credentials because now I have my own IAM user credentials and all. Let's assume that my manager share this information to me. So I want to just double check if this is working fine or not. So to log in into the AWS console as an IAM user, you have to use this specific URL. And I'm just clicking on some private window, incognito window, because in Chrome already I have logged in with my root user. So I want to show you the difference. So that is why in the Chrome I have logged in as a user, and in some private window I will just click on this URL. And by default this account ID is pre-filled because this is there in your URL itself, right? This is the account ID, and if you can observe carefully, this is account ID which we have already seen, 637423384918. This is with root user. With root user, one unique account ID generated. I will already told. I have already told this. So that unique, with that unique ID, it will create a user for you. It will generate a URL also with the same UID. So that is why when you are clicking on that URL, console URL which you have, once you click on enter on that, it will automatically fill this account ID for you. Now you have to enter the username and password which you have received. So we have already saved our username password, right? Let me just try to log in with this, with the default password. It is random password. So once I click on sign in, it will ask me to change this password. See, it is not opening the console screen just like this. AWS management console screen, it is not opening for me as a new user. It is showing the change password, right? Why? Because we have selected that checkbox. User should change the password for the first login while creating the IAM user. So now I have to given my old password. I'm just changing new password now. Click on confirm password change. Now I can able to access my AWS console as an IAM user. And you can see multiple regions here as well. Now let's observe the difference here. here it is showing my username @account ID because this is an IAM user. Here also it will show you IAM user is Lakshmi M and account ID is this one. But in the root account, what we have seen, account name itself, it is showing the account name while creating the account which we have given, and it is showing account ID. Once you click here, you can, it is easy to identify you have logged in with IAM user or root user. It will show you username @account ID if it is an IAM user, and even it will mention here also IAM user. It is mentioning. Okay. So now we have created a IAM user. We have logged in with the IAM user. Let's see what it is showing. Access is denied. For all the applications, you don't have permission to list this application. Okay, that is fine. I want to create an S3 bucket now as an IAM user. Once I click on S3 bucket, once I click on S3, so I want to create a bucket, for example. Okay, I want to create a bucket. It is just showing you the. So let me just give some test name because it will anyway it will not allow us to create it. So I'm just clicking on create bucket. Something I have given some random number. See, once I click on create bucket, it will show you fail to create bucket. To create a bucket, you have this permission required. S3 create bucket permission. Right? So this permission we have not given to this particular user. So that is why even if I have a username and password, even if I have authentication, I am not authorized to use this service. Now you understand clearly what is authentication and authorization, right? I have authenticated because my username password is correct, my URL is correct, I have logged in with correct URL with correct credentials. I am authenticated. Perfectly I am authenticated. I am the valid user. But to access any service, I am not authorized. I don't have access. I don't have permission. You can understand in any way. You can take any word or access, permission, anything. The concept is you are not authorized to use this as of now. So to make this user to use this particular service as a root user, you have to provide those permissions in the form of policies. You have to provide permission to this user to access this account or to access this service, okay, in the form of policies that we will see in couple of minutes. Okay, and it will not show you list of buckets also here. Let me just check. Okay, that is fine. So yeah, it is not showing anything. Even for create bucket, even for read bucket also, it will not show you anything. Let's try with any other service, EC2 service, because these two are the primary services we will be discussing in our next session. So I'm just trying if I can see. It is showing error. 0 EC2 free tier offers in use, and you can ignore that. See, this is the error. Lakshmi M is not authorized to perform free tier get free tier usage. I am not authorized because my root user doesn't provide access to me. I hope you understand, right? This error is occurring retrieving server health. So you will get everything error because you have not having any permission, any of the permission. It is a plain user. You are not authorized to use any of the service. So this is how we can control. If if I want to add, if I want to make this user to access S3 bucket, I will give S3 bucket permission only as a root user, so that this user can use S3 bucket, but she cannot use this EC2 or any other services. So that is why we can make the difference, and we can categorize the developers or categorize the employees, and we can provide the specific access. That is the main use of this IAM service. IAM service will make sure right users have the access for the right services. So Lakshmi M is the valid user, but she don't have access to anything. We, as a root user, we need to provide the access to that particular S3 or any other service if she want to use. So yeah, let's see how we can add the permissions or add the policies to this particular user. So let us see how we can add policies or permission to this users. Okay, so to do that, I just navigated back to this main IAM page. Here you can go to users. As we have already created one user, you can click on that user. Okay, so here if you can see, add permissions. Okay, you can create inline policy or you can add the permissions. Inline policy we will discuss later, because that inline policy is specific to a service. It is not common for all the users or all the services. It is a service specific policy. For EC2 there will be a one inline policy, for S3 there will be a one inline policy, like that. For each and every service maybe we can create inline policy. That is a custom kind of policy, we will see it later. Okay, so for now, if you want to add the permissions or add the policies, you can click on this add permissions. While creating the user itself, we have seen this screen if you remember. Okay, so add user to group. We, as of now, we don't have any group, so we know we are not going to select this one. Copy permissions. If any already one user is there, if you want to create a second user with the same permissions with which the user one will have, you can select this one, so that whatever the permissions are there for the first user, same permissions will be applicable to this new user which you are going to create now. So this is also not a correct option for us right now. So to add a policies or to add permissions to existing user, you can select this one, attach policies directly. So which attach the policies directly to the user. So if you can, yeah, here we have, see, permissions policies 1194, which are all the existing policies, pre-built policies built for you, which are built by AWS. See, if you can see, the type is AWS managed, AWS managed, everything is AWS managed. So AWS already created a couple of policies for us, which are pre-built policies, which are already available in your account. Even if it is a new account, we are not creating this, we didn't create these policies, right? So these are all the existing policies. You can use as any existing policy to add this to a user. Okay, or to add this policies to your new user or existing user. So for example, let's select this Amazon S3 full access. If you can expand this, it will show you what are the different permission it is having. So let's say for example, and I think we have already added this policy. Let me just double check. Yeah, so we have already given this S3 policy. See, but policy wise actually we have added, it seems, but bucket, see, you don't have permission to list the buckets. When I click on this buckets, usually it should show the number of buckets or list of buckets which is having in my account. So it is not showing here. This is a user, IAM user, which I have logged in. So let's see, to update your permissions to allow S3 list all my buckets action. So this is one kind of permission inside this policy we have to apply for this particular user. So let's navigate back to the root user. So this is my root user account. So if you want to give this, okay, let me just select this S3 full access. Okay, or maybe S3 read only access. Full access means they can that IAM user can create, delete, edit or anything. Read only access means they can only view that. So let's select this one and let's see what is there. Okay, let's click on next. Read only access permissions policy we have added, and click on permission, add permissions. One policy is added. See here another policy, which is S3 read only access. It is managed, AWS managed policy attached to this user, and it is attached via directly. So we have added this policy directly to the user instead of adding it in group and what we will see later. So let's navigate back to our IAM user. Let me refresh this. Ideally this error should go out. See, now when we click on buckets, we are not seeing that same error here. You don't have any buckets, no buckets. So we have not created any buckets, so that is why it is not showing any list of buckets here. But ideally that error was gone. Okay, so now we are not getting any error like you don't have permissions to list buckets and all, just like we have seen just a few minutes later. But you can just create the bucket. While creating the bucket, it will throw error because we have not provided creating bucket permission. Only read only permission we have given. Right? Let me just test this as well. See, to create a bucket, the S3 create bucket permission is required. So for each and every action which you are going to do in this IAM services, there is list of lot of permissions. So if you want to if you want your IAM user to create this bucket, you have to provide create bucket permission, which is a edit permission, write permission. Okay, so write permission means you can the user can create, edit anything they can do. Read permission means they can only view what is there. They can only just check what is available things. They cannot do any actions, they cannot edit, they cannot create anything. That's it. Then delete option is as the name itself said, we can delete anything from this account. Okay, so as of now we have given only read only permission. So that is why it is while listing out the buckets, okay, it will show you the list of the buckets if you have. Otherwise it will throw an error because we have given only read only access to this IAM user. Okay, so likewise you can create your own policies also. Okay, because IAM has, sorry, this AWS has list of policies and all. We have already seen pre-built policies, right? So if you want to create your own policy, that is also possible here in this AWS, right? So I'm just going, I just went to this policies action here, policies button. Okay, so you can create new policy with required permissions if you want. So to do that, I have just clicked on create policy, and you can select which service you want. Let's say for example this one S3 only. Earlier we have given read only policy. Now we can select any other permissions here. See, for to list the buckets we have 15 permissions. As of now, as we have given read only, it is accessible to list the bucket and all. These permissions have been added. For each and every action there are set of permissions again. So to read this we have 60 permissions, subset permissions, and to give write access we have multiple permissions here. So if you want to create a custom policy, or if you want to create a new policy by your own, you can do it in two different ways. You can do it by using visual editor, or you can do it by using JSON structure. If you are familiar with this JSON, you can add whatever the actions that the user can perform, whatever the permissions you want to give. Usually everyone will be comfortable with this visual, right? So we can check this. But before that, I just want to remove that read only policy which I have already applied earlier, because I want to show you some difference. So yeah, this is the root user, right? Okay, I'll just remove that existing permission. So to do that, go to user, and I will select this read only access. I'll remove this one, remove this policy. It went out. So again you will get error here when you list the buckets here by using IAM, because we have already removed it. So to add or remove permissions one by one for this each and every, see again we are getting this list all my buckets error, right? So I'll show you how to create a custom policy. But to do these actions one by one for each and every user, it will take much time. So to avoid that, we have this user groups, that also we will discuss. So yeah, here let's go to the policies now. Let's try to create a custom policy, and here in this custom policy I want to select the S3 service only, and in visual editor only we can select all these options. It will generate the JSON for you. you no need to worry. And here if you can see, these are all the two different actions they can perform. I mean, we can provide the permission, allow access or deny access. So by default, any IAM user cannot have any service to be accessible. So we as a root user manually we have to provide or allow these accesses, right? So what is the need of deny in that case, and what will give preference, or what is the I mean, yeah, I will tell that once we create the groups, then you will get much clarity. So by default, no service is available for IAM user, but in some cases, you have to give deny permission to some of the other permissions. Yes, this is the custom policy. So as of now, I will select allow. If you can select this, it will add all the permissions, all the dependent permissions. So, but when while creating this custom policy, if you want to select all the existing permissions, there is no use of custom policy, because all the pre-built policies are already there, created by the AWS, right? So you no need to create it again. There is no sense or use, because with all these permissions, there is a different policies available in AWS, like read-only policy, write policy, full access policy, like that. So you no need to create again. So you may select whatever the uh, whatever the required permissions instead of selecting all. So list all my buckets. This permission I want in the list section to list out my buckets. So in the right section, for the right, maybe for the read, maybe we can have any of the permission. Get object means inside that s3 bucket we will be having different files, which is called object here, that we will discuss in detail once we are discussing with this s3 topic. Okay, so like this, if you can select whatever the permissions you want. I'm just selecting randomly. So you can click on next. You have to give name to this policy later, but I am selecting the action is allow. So once you have selected all these things, you can go to JSON. See, it will show you the effect you have selected allow. Action is only 3 permissions I have selected. Get object, list all my buckets, put bucket ACL, because we have selected these checkboxes here in each and every category. Right? So if you are comfortable with JSON, you can use this structure and you can give anything. You can, I mean, you can write the actions one by one manually, or else you can just select here in the visual section. It will automatically create the JSON policy for you. So let's click on next. You can give the policy name here. I have just given, so you can give any name. Okay, so you can just click on create policy. See, the policy is created. Now you can attach this policy to the users. As of now we have only one user, right? So you can select this policy and you can add this policy to the user. So add permissions directly, and here you can search for the policy. See, this is the policy which we have created. It is showing here. You can select this policy and add the permission to it. So we can create our custom policies and add it to the users as well. And now if you can see, this is called customer managed. Now the type is showing as customer managed because we have created it, not AWS, right? So all the pre-built policies, it will show AWS managed. So any custom policies if we have created, it will show you customer managed. By this you can identify if it is a custom policy or default pre-built policy by the AWS and all. Right, so I hope you understand how to add policies and create new policies, custom policies and all. Now let's go to the groups topic. So to create a group, okay, at least I should have more than one user. So to demonstrate that, maybe I will create few test users. Okay, so I'm creating some random users. Dev user 1, provide console action. I want to create an IAM user and auto generated password. Yeah, I'm just leaving it as it is. I'll just uncheck this. As of now, no permissions. return to users list. Acha, okay, sorry. Yeah, we have given that auto-generated password, right? So at this stage only you can able to download this details. Otherwise, it will not be visible for you as a root user. So while creating user itself, just download those CSV file of credentials or maybe send the email to the required user. Otherwise, you will not get back. You will need to delete and create a user in general. So let me create another user, maybe QA user. Provide access. I want to create IAM user. Auto generated password. I'm just unchecking this to change the password. Again, I'm going to download this file for the QA user. I'm returning back to this. And let me create another dev user. I just want to show you a couple of things to group the users. So that is why I'm creating different users. So please bear with me. Okay, so I have created these users as of now. Okay, now let's see how we can create the group. So let's create a group by adding these members to the group. You can give group name like maybe I want to group all the developers together. So I will create developers group. Because if I want to add permissions to a developer, I want to create access to S3, EC2 and 50 services accesses, for example. For example, my developers are working, my developers are, I mean, they are needed access to the 50 services in the AWS to do their development work. So instead of creating single user and creating all the 50 permissions one by one to the user, and let's create another user and adding all the 50 permissions one by one to the user, instead of doing that, we can create a policy with the permissions with the permissions and all. Maybe we can just create a group like this, and you can apply the all the permissions or policies to this group. So whenever a new user coming in into your organization, you can just add that user to this group. So whatever the policies you have applied here in the group level, that will be applicable to the users in that particular group also. And there is no overridden concept here. Means at user level, if you have given read access, at group level, you have given a read and write access. Highest level of access will be taken precedence. Like maybe at user level, if you have given read and write access, so write is the highest permission, right? But for the group level, at the group level, you are giving only read access. So which will take precedence means what is the highest permission if that particular user have. At user level, we have added write. At group level, we have only read. So it will take write is the precedence. So that particular user will have read and write access. So like that. But if you have given allow and deny will take the precedence. So for at user level, you have given allow access for particular service. For the group level, at the group level, you have given denied. So denied will take precedence. Okay, deny policy will be applied. That particular user will not get allow access to any service. It will get denied. And vice versa, like that. So if you have to remember like what is the highest permission for that user it has, even at group level or at the user level, that will take precedence. And in between allow and deny will take the precedence. So this is what you need to remember. So I'm creating this group and I'm adding all my developer users only. I'm not adding the QA tester or generic user. Okay, I'm just adding two developers to my group. And what are the policies if you want to attach at this group level? You can give EC2 permission maybe. Just for example, I'm saying full access. No, anyway, don't give any full access. Just give read only access. Let's create a group. So developer group is created, and we have given easy to read only access at group level. At user level, for this new users, no policies are there. So you can 5 minutes ago, and user is enabled. And for each and every action which we are going to do in AWS, it will be generating ARN. AWS resource number or something. I'll tell you this later. It's a resource number or something, the full name. So for each and every resource which you are using or creating, yeah, it will create one resource number. And let's just open this user and let's see what are the permission it has. See, it has the permissions or policy, only one policy, that is easy to read only access, and it is attached via group. It will show you what is the policy type. It is custom policy or AWS policy. Here it is AWS policy, which because we have selected the default one. And it attached directly to the user or through the group. Even that difference also you can see here. See, this for this developer one, we have added this developer into a group, and at group level we have added this EC2 policy. At the user level we don't have any policy. So let me add one policy here so that you will get you will understand the difference. Okay, so attach policies directly. Maybe I will give any other read only access. Maybe DynamoDB read only access. I'm just adding this to this user, dev user 1. Okay. Yeah, excuse me. So if you can see this policy is attached directly. The DynamoDB read only access policy is attached directly to this user by using direct action. And for this EC2 read only access is added via this group, because this user is there in this developer group. So that is why we have applied this policy to this group. So that policy is applicable to all the users inside that group. So that is about groups, users, and policies. And IAM roles, we will discuss it later once we cover the EC2 instance, because I want to show you by creating an EC2 instance, by providing different accesses, creating different roles to access the another resources. So that will be helpful for you if at least you know at least one or two services in AWS. Then that will be easy for you to understand what is role in practical way. Okay, in theoretical way, as I have already mentioned in the initial of this video, a role is the one which will allow two services to communicate with each other. Let's say if we have DynamoDB service, we have S3 service, we have EC2 service, for example. So if EC2 service want to talk to any database service to get some data, to to add some data into the database, for this EC2 and DynamoDB, we need to establish a communication or authentication, right? So to do that, we can create a role, and we can create a role and add it to this EC2 instance, which will add the DynamoDB. Inside that, we will write some policies, or we can configure something to create this role. So that is why, as at this stage we have discussed only IAM service, you will not get much idea how the role will do. So theoretically, it is like it will establish a communication between two different services, not the users. Users is different, roles is different. Users is for the employees or human being. You can remember in that way. Roles is for the services or servers, or two machines want to talk to each other. You can create a role in AWS to establish that communication. Okay, so once we cover in our next video, we will cover this EC2 one. So once we are done with that, later on we will take another 20 minutes video. You can create another 10 to 20 minutes video. There we can discuss about roles and some other stuff like a password policy is there, how these users can check, create a good password, and security token service is there, multi-factor authentication is there. All these topics we can discuss there in the second part of the video. So this is the first part of the video of IAM service. I hope this video is helpful to you, and I'm going to delete these users for now in the background once we are done with this recording, because I just wanted to avoid if there is anything, because creating users and creating groups is a free service only, but just for the safe side I'm doing this. Okay. Okay, so the role we will discuss later. So inside that role, maybe we can create a new user by that time, and we can check, we can see all the other security features available in this IAM user to change the policy, to do the MFA, multi-factor authentication and all. In the second part of the video, we will see that. Right? Yeah. Thank you. If you are visiting our channel for the first time, please subscribe, because we are going to create a very big course in AWS and even for MuleSoft also. Okay. So as this is the first service we have discussed, in from next this will not be available in MuleSoft as an user. That is just a configuration stuff, right? So from next service onwards, we will be discussing the TC2 service in AWS, and in the next day we will be going to discussing about how we can use the TC2 service or configure the TC2 connector in MuleSoft. So we will do those two practicals day by day, so that you will get understand how we can do the in AWS and MuleSoft. So both will cover, right? Yeah, that's it. So if you are visiting our channel for the first time, please subscribe and share, like our videos, and share this video also with your friends. Thank you. Thanks for watching.